Hello everyone and welcome back to another repair video. I have a 1999 Ford Ranger here, and this truck has a four-wheel drive problem. The four-wheel drive will not engage. You flip the switch into four-wheel drive, but the front wheels do not receive any power. So it's a fairly easy fix. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into this one and show you guys what I'm going to do here to fix the problem. I'm going to show you the repairs here on the driver's side, as I've already done them on the passenger side to familiarize myself with the repair so I can make a better video. But with all that being said, let's go fix this Ranger. Now, first things first, as always, you want to verify the problem. So let's start the truck up. And we'll shift the vehicle into four-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive light comes on. Put it in low gear. Take the foot off the brake. Now, as you can see, the rear tire is spinning, but the fronts aren't. So even though the truck says it's in four-wheel drive, we still have no rotation on the front wheels. We know we have power to the rear wheels, to the front drive shaft, to the differential, and even all the way out to the axle shaft here. But there's something missing that's causing this front hub to not engage and causing the four-wheel drive to not work. Now, in order to figure this problem out, you have to understand how the hubs work. The hubs on this Ranger are vacuum actuated. This means it uses a vacuum to engage the hubs on the front wheels. The rear wheels have no hubs, they're constantly engaged. But the front hubs disengage, so the axle shafts, the transfer case, the drive shaft, none of that stuff is rotating when the four-wheel drive is not in use. This is nice to save wear on the parts and increase fuel mileage a tiny bit, but it also results in a lot of problems such as this. So let's just start at the top of the engine where vacuum is generated. When the engine is not under load, the engine has vacuum in the intake manifold. So they take a little vacuum line here that runs from the intake and goes to a little vacuum reservoir that's underneath these containers here. You got your windshield washer fluid reservoir and your radiator coolant reservoir here, and then your air intake. There's a vacuum reservoir, so it's like a little vacuum bulb. It holds vacuum, so that way as the engine goes in the load, out of load, etc., you've got some vacuum in a little reservoir here. It's kind of hidden, you can't see it, but that's where the vacuum line goes to. From there, you have a vacuum line that goes to the heating and air conditioning controls. One of the telltale signs if you have this problem is your heating and air conditioning controls aren't going to work either when you attempt to engage four-wheel drive. Now, the other vacuum line that we're going to be focusing on runs up to the front of the truck. Now, I'm going to raise the truck up on the lift here so you can get a view from underneath and see what I'm talking about. It goes to a little valve, and this valve will open and close to allow vacuum to be applied to the front hubs and then take the vacuum off when you put it back in two-wheel drive. So let's raise it up and I'll show you what I'm talking about. On the passenger front side of the vehicle, behind the little splash shield here, you're going to see some vacuum lines up in the corner here. Tucked up in the front underneath the air filter box is a little switch. Now you see these two vacuum lines here? Got one here and one here that run to this little switch. This is your vacuum switch that shuts off the vacuum to the hubs when you're in two-wheel drive and applies the vacuum to the hubs when you're in four-wheel drive. So your vacuum line runs to the little switch here, and then it comes out of the top here, goes to this little junction here where it goes into a T, which splits off of one. This vacuum line, which I've already replaced, goes up to the passenger side front hub, and then this other vacuum line here runs down along the frame, runs across the frame here, and then comes up to the driver's side of the truck right here. See the little vacuum line there? So it comes back up here, then you follow it down, and boom, here's your problem. Now this is very, very common on older vehicles with vacuum systems. The rubber hoses just completely wear out, and they just disintegrate. They almost dissolve, really. But they're just completely gone. The little plastic hoses, they like to crack and break. So as you can see, the vacuum line is completely gone. Now look on the hub here. Here's the vacuum line on the hub. There's supposed to be a rubber line running from here to here, and it's completely missing. You can see even where the little rubber piece is still here on the little clamp. It's just worn out completely. Now, if you catch this problem quickly and do something about it, you're usually okay with just replacing the vacuum lines. However, as you can see, these components have been exposed to the elements for a long period of time. I'm not going to take any chances here. I'm going to go ahead and replace both the hubs while I'm at it, because I just want the system to work for the owner. I don't want him to have any issues with it, so we're going to spend a little bit of extra money. Yes, we are going to get vacuum actuated hubs. We're not getting locking hubs, even though you could get that. This is just what they want to do. Turns out that the vacuum hubs from Ford were actually cheaper than aftermarket mile marker locking hubs. So we're going to just go ahead and put the vacuum hubs on here, and we're going to replace the vacuum lines that are missing. I'm going to do everything here, make sure it all works correctly. And like I said earlier, I've already done the passenger side, so I'm going to show you how to do this job on the driver's side here. Now, Ford went back and changed this on some other vehicles. I guess they figured out what a huge inconvenience this was to people, to have their four-wheel drive quit working in the middle of nowhere when you need it, and then you're stuck there and not going anywhere. So they changed it. They had the hubs default to enabled if the vehicle lost vacuum. My 2007 F-150, for example, had a problem with the hub staying constantly engaged, but a lot of times people don't even care about that and they'll just let it go because there's no problem with it. But when the hubs lost vacuum due to those broken vacuum lines, just like on this Ranger here, the hubs stayed engaged and four-wheel drive still worked. So it's a different design. Now that's a newer 2007 F-150. This is an older 1999 Ranger. So it's a different design, but I like the way they improved it at least a little bit. I really wish they would just get rid of it entirely. It's hard to believe they're still using vacuum actuated hubs like this, even on brand new trucks, but it is what it is. I mean, fortunately, this isn't too bad to fix. It's just a nuisance. It'd be nice if they could use something like GM uses, or just do what Ram does and they're constantly engaged. This is what our finished project is going to look like on the driver's side. We have a new vacuum actuated hub. We have new lines here. In this case, I just used some fuel line, vacuum line, fuel line, really the same thing if you're going to use it in a vacuum situation like this. The vacuum line runs along the ABS wire here, runs up to the vacuum lines there, runs into the little T-junction, and just plugs in back there. Now, fortunately, all the vacuum lines back here were good, but all the rubber hose that was exposed was just completely shot, so I replaced the whole thing. Here's the replacement hub for doing this job. It comes with a new seal and the hub piece itself. And also inside the box, it's a little instruction sheet and a new seal. Now, in the instructions here, Ford's going to tell you to use these special tools. We're even going to have a puller there and a little special tool that holds the clips out to pull this off. But the thing is, we're replacing the hub, so we don't care if we damage it while taking it out because it's going to get a new one anyway. So here's how you get the old one off. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses while doing this job. Take a small hammer and a punch or a little chisel. And what you're going to do is you're just going to break these little plastic tabs off, just like so. And then before long, the entire old hub just completely flies off. Now all you have to do is, using the remaining piece of plastic that hang on here, slide the mechanisms of the old vacuum hub out. There you have it. That's what's left of the old hub. And as you can see, it's a little rusty, it's a little contaminated. And this can cause the hubs to stick and not actuate properly. And like I said earlier, I just don't want to take any chances. I want this all to be a new system so that it works when he needs it to. Next, we're going to install the new seal. You always want to make sure you use a new seal here. But before that, we're just going to clean it off here, get any debris, stuff out of that little groove there so we get a nice tight seal. I like to use a little bit of transmission fluid and just lightly coat the new seal with transmission fluid. We don't take a chance of ripping the new seal. Then that installs on the hub right here, like so. Then you take your new hub right here. You may have to move the axle shaft around a little bit to get it to line up. There it goes. And then once it lines up, just give it a couple good taps. And there you go. That's all that's to it. Now we're going to remove the old vacuum line and put the new one in. There's an 8mm bolt on the back of the hub here that you're going to want to take out. I've got my little electric ratchet here. That's also going to loosen the ABS wire as well. You may want to clean that up and oil it before you put it back in, just to make it easier and reduce the chance of cross-threading. And as you can see in here, there's a little piece of rubber hose that used to be in place. It's just completely gone, completely deteriorated. Now we're going to pull the rest of the old vacuum line off here. Having a small flat head screwdriver is going to be one of your best friends when it comes to getting all these clips off, especially if you want to not damage them and reuse them. We're going to separate it from a little 90-degree elbow here. It eventually comes out just like so. Save this little plastic piece here. You're going to need that for your new piece of vacuum line. So I'm going to just use a pair of pliers here and very carefully, very easily remove the old vacuum tube from it. There we go. There's the old vacuum line. Look at it just coming apart. I'm going to save the plastic loom here that went around this vacuum line, and I would like to protect the new vacuum line once I put it back in. So I'm going to keep this and discard the old vacuum line. Now we're going to install the new vacuum line. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of transmission fluid here on this little line here, the metal line coming out of the hub, just so it installs easier and seals better once we get the rubber hose on there. This is where we're going to start. The line slides on. As you can see, all the old clips are still here, so we're going to reuse those. The vacuum line is going to follow this pattern here. Make sure you give yourself enough slack here. You want it to kind of look like that. You want to have a nice little bend here in the bottom, like you see. Follow the ABS wire. That's kind of your guide of where it's going to go. Now I'm also going to put the old loom back on the new vacuum line here to protect it, and then we're going to put it back in the little clips. And here's what your finished project should look like. As you can see on the hub, the vacuum line runs to the little clamp which holds it to the spindle. It runs up, provides slack here while the suspension goes up and down. These two lines here can flex, and it goes over here and all the original clamps, which are still there, holding it in place all the way up to the original vacuum line up here at the little 90-degree elbow. Now, if everything is done properly and everything is working, we should be able to start the truck up, put it in four-wheel drive, and both front rotors here should rotate. So there you guys go. I hope you enjoyed this repair video on the 99 Ranger. Check out a couple other repair videos I've done here on the same truck. Pretty interesting misfire with no check engine light or code issue that I fixed. And feel free to subscribe, of course. I would really appreciate it. I'm getting close to 100,000 and I'd like to get there. It would be a pretty special mile mark. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you next time.